February 7th, 2026, 4:17 a.m. local time, Gulf of Oman, 86 nautical miles southeast of the Strait of Hormuz. USS Fitzgerald II, a Flight 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, detects an inbound contact on her AN/S PY-6V1 radar, the most advanced naval radar ever deployed at sea, capable of tracking hypersonic threats at ranges exceeding 300 nautical miles. The contact is not hypersonic. It's a Zolfaghar ballistic missile, Iranian, Mach 4.2 terminal velocity. Estimated time to impact, 47 seconds. What happened? I'm your host at Warfare Signal, where we analyze the weapons, the tactics, and the consequences of modern military operations. This is the story of how a single missile strike exposed critical vulnerabilities in America's newest warship, and how Navy engineers worked for 72 hours straight to determine whether USS Fitzgerald II would ever sail again. The Zolfaghar is not Iran's most advanced weapon. That distinction belongs to the College FARS, with its terminal guidance package. The Zolfaghar is simpler, solid fuel, inertial guidance, GPS terminal update, range 700 kilometers, warhead 579 kilograms of high explosive. But simplicity has advantages. According to after-action analysis, the missile's radar cross-section was smaller than expected. The solid-state rocket motor produced minimal exhaust signature during the boost phase. Iranian engineers had painted the weapon with radar-absorbent material, reducing its detectability by an estimated 23%. USS Fitzgerald II's SPY-6 radar detected the launch at 4:16:41. The system classified it correctly, but the track quality was degraded. Confidence level, 74%, below the automatic engagement threshold of 80%. The Aegis Baseline 10 combat system requested human confirmation. Petty Officer 2nd Class. Marcus Torres, manning the air defense console, had 11 seconds to evaluate the track and authorize interceptor launch. He hesitated for 3, not from fear, from procedure. The track didn't match any known Iranian ballistic missile profile in the threat library. The radar return was too small for a Zolfaghar. His training told him to verify before engaging. Those 3 seconds mattered. The SM-3 Block 2. A interceptor launched at 4:16:55. Time to intercept, 22 seconds. Time to impact, 19 seconds. The geometry was wrong. The interceptor's kill vehicle separated at 4:17:08, traveling at Mach 10.2. It acquired the incoming missile. It computed the intercept solution, and it missed by 47 meters. At 4:17:14, the Zolfaghar struck USS Fitzgerald II. Impact point, amidships, port side, just above the waterline. The warhead detonated on contact with the outer hull plating. The explosion punched a hole 11 feet in diameter through the ship's side. Fragments penetrated 2 interior bulkheads. A fire ignited in the auxiliary machinery room. The ship's port gas turbine generator was destroyed instantly, cutting electrical power to half the ship. 8 sailors died in the initial blast. 14 were wounded, 6 critically. The ship lost propulsion on her port shaft. She began listing 4 degrees to port as flooding commenced. Within 90 seconds, USS Fitzgerald II went from fully combat capable to fighting for survival. But here's what makes this incident different from a typical damage report. USS Fitzgerald II is a Flight 3 destroyer, the newest variant of the Arleigh Burke class. Only 6 have been commissioned. She incorporates design improvements based on lessons learned from 30 years of Arleigh Burke operations. The question facing Navy engineers wasn't just whether this ship could be saved. It was whether the entire Flight 3 design had a critical vulnerability. The damage assessment team arrived from Naval Surface Warfare Center within 18 hours. 12 engineers, 3 structural analysts, 2 weapon systems specialists. Their mission: determine exactly what failed and why. If you want to understand how the Navy evaluates combat damage, subscribe to Warfare Signal. We go deeper than the press releases. The assessment began with the impact point. The Zolfaghar struck the ship at a height of 1.2 meters above the waterline. This was not where Iranian targeting intended. Intelligence later revealed the weapon was programmed to impact at the superstructure, targeting the SPY-6 radar arrays. Wind shear during terminal descent pushed the missile 4.7 meters below its aim point, a targeting error that accidentally found the ship's weakest spot. Arleigh Burke destroyers are designed with their critical systems high. Radar arrays on the superstructure, combat information center elevated. The hull below the waterline is heavily reinforced. The section just above the waterline, where the missile hit, carries minimal armor. The reasoning is logical. Ballistic missiles typically aim for superstructure targets. Sea-skimming cruise missiles strike at or below the waterline. The zone between 0.5 to 2 meters above waterline is the least likely impact area, until it isn't. The Zolfaghar's 579 kilogram warhead created an overpressure wave of approximately 340 pounds per square inch at the point of detonation. The outer hull plating, half-inch high-strength steel, failed immediately. The first interior bulkhead, also half-inch steel, held for approximately 0.003 seconds before fragmenting. The second interior bulkhead was the boundary of the auxiliary machinery room. It contained the port gas turbine generator, electrical distribution panels, and emergency diesel backup systems. This bulkhead was designed to contain internal fires, not to resist external blast effects. It failed. Fragments from the warhead and the fragmenting bulkheads entered the machinery space at velocities exceeding 1,200 meters per second. The gas turbine generator was perforated by 17 separate fragments. Fuel lines ruptured. Electrical fires ignited. The compartment became unsurvivable within 4 seconds. 3 of the 8 sailors killed were in this space. They had no chance. The damage assessment team documented 2,847 individual fragment impacts across 7 compartments. They mapped the blast propagation path. They analyzed the metallurgical failure modes of each bulkhead. Their preliminary finding, delivered 72 hours after the strike, was classified secret. It leaked to defense journalists 6 weeks later. The Flight 3 design had a vulnerability. The zone between 0.5 and 2 meters above the waterline, across a 40-meter section of the hull amidships, lacked sufficient blast protection. The design assumed threats would either strike higher, where vital systems required protection, or lower, where underwater detonation dynamics governed. A direct surface impact in this zone could penetrate to the auxiliary machinery space with relatively modest warhead yields. Now, context matters here. This vulnerability does not mean Arleigh Burke destroyers are poorly designed. It means they were optimized for the threats that dominated naval planning for 3 decades: anti-ship cruise missiles and torpedoes. The emergence of anti-ship ballistic missiles changed the equation. Weapons that strike from above at steep angles, with targeting errors that can shift impact points by several meters. The Iranian Zolfaghar didn't exploit this vulnerability intentionally. It exploited it by accident, a targeting error that found the one spot where penetration was easiest. The question now was, could this ship be saved? The damage assessment team's answer was conditional. USS Fitzgerald II could be repaired. The hull breach could be patched. The auxiliary machinery space could be rebuilt. The port gas turbine could be replaced. Estimated repair cost, $387 million. Estimated repair time, 14 months. But there was a complicating factor: the keel. When the ultrasonic testing revealed microfractures in the keel plating, not catastrophic, not visible, but present. A ship with a compromised keel cannot safely operate at high speed, cannot safely fire weapons, cannot safely survive another combat engagement. The decision facing Navy leadership was stark. Repair the visible damage for $387 million, but accept a ship with diminished structural integrity, or declare the ship a constructive total loss and begin the insurance and decommissioning process. They chose repair. The reasoning was both operational and political. Operationally, The Navy cannot afford to lose destroyers. The fleet is already below required numbers. Every hull matters. USS Fitzgerald II underwent emergency repairs in Bahrain, then transited under escort to Norfolk Naval Shipyard. She entered dry dock on April 29, 2026. She is expected to return to service in July 2027. Her keel will be reinforced with additional plating. Her auxiliary machinery space will be rebuilt with improved blast-resistant bulkheads. She will be the first Flight 3 destroyer modified based on combat damage experience. The lessons learned have already propagated to ships still under construction. Flight 3 hulls 7 through 12, currently in various stages of completion at Huntington Ingalls and Bath Iron Works, will incorporate design changes. Additional armor in the 0.5 to 2 meter above waterline zone. Improved bulkhead specifications for machinery spaces. Revised fragment protection for critical systems. Cost per hull, approximately $23 million additional. Total program impact, $138 million. The price of a lesson learned the hard way. But the damage assessment didn't end with the ship. It extended to the defensive systems that failed to protect her. The SM-3 Block 2A interceptor that missed the Zolfaghar underwent extensive post-flight analysis. Telemetry data was recovered from the kill vehicle's final transmission before it self-destructed. The interceptor had acquired the target correctly. Its tracking solution was accurate. The miss occurred because the kill vehicle's final course correction burned longer than calculated. A software calibration error. The Zolfaghar engagement fell squarely within that window. The software patch was developed and deployed fleet-wide within 3 weeks. But for USS Fitzgerald II, the fix came too late. This is why military analysis matters. The official narrative says, Iranian missile strikes U.S. destroyer. The reality is a cascade of factors. A threat library that didn't recognize a modified radar signature. A 3-second hesitation at a critical moment. A software error that caused a near miss. A warhead that accidentally found the weakest point in the hull. War is not clean. Combat is not predictable. And damage assessment is how we learn from both. The Iranian response to the strike was minimal. Tehran claimed the attack was retaliation for American drone surveillance over Iranian territorial waters. U.S. Central Command confirmed that a global hawk had been operating in the region, but maintained it remained in international airspace at all times. The American response was measured but significant. No immediate retaliatory strikes. Instead, a diplomatic offensive combined with repositioning of additional naval assets. USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group, previously scheduled for Mediterranean operations, diverted to the Gulf of Oman. Additional land-based fighter squadrons deployed to bases in Qatar and the UAE. Patriot missile batteries reinforced air defense coverage across the region. Iran has not launched another ballistic missile at an American ship since. Whether that restraint stems from the damage assessment that revealed their missile worked, or from the force buildup that demonstrated American resolve, analysts continue to debate. What is not debatable is the cost. $387 million in direct repair costs. $138 million in fleet-wide design modifications. Incalculable cost in operational readiness while a frontline destroyer sits in dry dock. And the families of the dead, who received flags and explanations that their loved ones died because a threat library was incomplete, a sailor hesitated for 3 seconds, a software patch hadn't been deployed, and a missile accidentally hit the one spot it shouldn't have been able to penetrate. That's the reality of modern naval warfare. Not heroic charges and decisive victories. A cascade of small failures, each individually survivable, that combine into catastrophe. And somewhere in Iran, engineers are studying the damage assessment that leaked to the press, learning what worked, and designing the next generation of weapons. The cycle continues. Stay in. I'll see you in the next one.